You good? You got me? I got the lapel on. Yeah, I'm turned on. Do you have me muted? We've got a, there we go. Yes, I'm on. And now how about, oh, that's too much. I'm too loud. And then how about Jim? The other wireless mic.
There we go.
Okay, well, it is 9 o'clock on the dot, so we will get started. Jim, you mind kicking us off?
All right, good morning. Good to have all of our parents here except for Seth Turney, but I'm sorry, Seth. There's kind of a love-hate relationship there going for you. I'm going to try to make this quick this morning. We thought we'd take this opportunity with Daniel resigning and going to work down for the Thompson School District. We wanted to take a good look at our youth ministry and, how do we want to use this opportunity, use this time to look at our youth ministry? What are some changes that we want to do that would make it better? And we wanted to kind of use today to get all the parents together, those who have a stake in the youth ministry, to do some planning around the interim until we can get Daniel's position refilled, as well as then going forward with a new youth minister. What do we want to see in a youth minister? What do we want the youth ministry to look like with that? So just a couple of real quick things that I'll mention, and we're going to work on those more as we go through today. We want to do a few structural changes. We want it to have a contact shepherd for the youth ministry. So instead of trying to guess, okay, who's the lead shepherd this particular month and chasing them down and getting 4 different opinions from 4 different shepherds, is to have a single point contact, which unfortunately for all of you, it's going to be me. But I think that's going to work out pretty good for the youth ministry. Brad, I know for campus ministry, has got Gary, and I think that really helps provide some continuity. And he always, if he's got needs or questions, he always knows who to go to. And the other thing that we want to do, and this is something I've had a lot of experience in past churches when our sons were growing up, and I think others, I think it's more popular in the southern states than maybe here, but that's to have like a youth committee or youth ministry, and we'd like to at least get 4 individuals who'd be on a youth ministry team that is working hand in hand with a youth minister once we get one established, and of course we'll be working on that in the interim. But before I kick us off this morning, I want to give just a couple points to the parents. We always think youth ministry is about the youth, but in actuality, youth ministry has as much to do with the parents as it does with the youth. First time I lived in Houston back in the early 90s, we had a youth minister at the West Houston Church of Christ. His name was Brian Mashburn. And Jason, I don't know if you've ever heard of Brian. I know Jeff knows Brian. And years later, when we were over living in Louisiana, we brought Brian over to a youth rally to specifically talk to just the parents. And he gave a talk to the parents on what God expects from parents. And I'm just going to go through 3 points of the lesson that he presented there. And first, he defined Christian parents as parents who want their kids to belong to Christ. And I don't think any of us would argue with that. But 3 points that he taught that I think is really appropriate for today's audience is he termed something called the law of the lid. And he says your child's faith can only easily grow as far as yours has. And that's not to say that our children can't grow in faith in areas that we haven't, but it's just saying they can't do it easily. We tend as parents to set the ceiling of our own children's spiritual growth. So if I only grow to this level, chances are I'm limiting my children to that same level of spiritual growth. Children, there's always exceptions to the rule, but puts, I think, a lot of responsibility on us as parents. And for us to, no matter how old we get, no matter how long we've been members of the church, to keep growing our own faith, to always show our own children that our faith is our priority and it'll become their priority. Kind of tied with that, he talked about something called the law of transfer. He said Christian values are not taught, they are caught. And I really like that. It kind of is the old saying, do as I say, not as I do. Well, that does not work. I think everybody would agree that does not work for kids. Our kids are looking at what we're doing. They're not looking at what we're saying. So really, faith and character and relationship with God, we can't transfer that to them through a bunch of rules and activities. It's only going to be through relationships. And I think that's the number one thing a youth program can help parents do that you might not be able to do on your own, is help build those kind of relationships outside of the family for your kids. And then I'm going to talk to just the dads, and I know we've got a couple of single parents in here, and it's a really challenge for them. It's called the law of fathering, and it's kids can only grow spiritually because of dad or in spite of him. And I think that's one thing dads, so many times, I'm the only one. How many were here in the 1970s at Meadowlark? I guess I'm the only one who was here in the 1970s. When I was a young kid and going to school at CSU, we came here to Meadowlark, and Bill Morrow was the preacher. And Bill Morrow was preaching one day and then started talking about the Waltons. I don't know if any of you watched the Waltons growing up. Who was the spiritual leader in the family of the Waltons? It was the mom. What was her name? Elizabeth or something? I don't know. But Bill Morrow said he would not let his family watch the Waltons because they had the wrong spiritual leader. The dad wasn't spiritual. But whether we like it or not, it says fathers were either leading or were hindering, and there's no neutral for a father. So that's really a challenge for the dads especially. Is a lot with how the spiritual growth of your children goes depends a lot on dad as opposed to mom. And that's not it's not my opinion. That's just what a lot of people who have done a lot of studies that they've determined for whatever reason, dads have a much bigger impact. So if dad's not spiritual, it just means mom's job is that much more challenging and that much more difficult, or especially if there isn't a dad in the house, really puts a lot more emphasis on mom and makes it more challenging for her. So I just wanted to just give a couple of quick points as we kick this off today, just to get you thinking about what your own responsibilities and challenges you as parents have in bringing up your kids. But why don't you bow with me and we'll say a quick prayer and we'll get things turned over this morning. Our dear Heavenly Father, we're so thankful for just the opportunity that we have to be part of a family here at Meadowlark. We're just thankful for just each other, for just the being able to challenge each other on our own spirituality. And Father, as we spend today, we just pray for your guidance and your direction as we spend the day planning for the youth here at Meadowlark. Planning, Father, while we're without a youth minister, how we want to function, how we want to be able to continue the spiritual growth of our kids. Father, to helping us to determine what we need in a minister to bring into Meadowlark, to help grow the youth ministry, to help make it a tool not only for the spiritual growth of our young people, but to also use it as an evangelistic tool, Father, to reach out to the kids in this community who may not have a family that has a relationship with you, but to be able to bring and reach out to those children and show them who you are. and to just bring them into a relationship with you. We're just thankful for each of the parents that are here this morning, Father. We live in a time that makes it difficult for parents to raise their children, to teach their children your ways as opposed to the ways of the world. And we just ask for your blessing and your guidance this morning. For as always, it's in Christ's name. Amen.
Jim, I appreciate that. Those of you that don't know me, I get really nervous when I have to stand up and look at a whole bunch of people looking at me. So if I start sweating, don't worry about it. I'm not going to pass out. But like Jim said, the experience that we have had, that Tamara and I have had in the past with youth ministry is the support group that the youth minister has always had. Having the 4 deacons at our previous church that really helped as a good cushion so that the youth minister could actually focus more on the spiritual aspects of the kids. We don't want to label them as deacons, like Jim said, using 4 of us parents as ministry leaders to incorporate what we can in our knowledge to help support the youth ministry going forward. I think is going to be critical to allow the youth minister to start doing what they need to do. The other thing that I want to bring out today is if we leave this meeting excited about where the youth ministry is going to be going, we have a good answer for when our kids are asking about it, because even as young as Levi is, he knows what's going on. He may seem like he's out there, but he absolutely knows what's going on. And I know he was excited about coming into the youth group. And without that identified youth minister label, it's kind of a guessing game for him. Some of the older kids, Abby and Hannah, and some of these other ones that had youth minister, had Daniel with them, and is now gone. It's kind of they're kind of in limbo. And so I think if we can come out of this with a very positive direction, knowing that there is a plan. We don't know what that plan looks like yet, but if we stay positive in that momentum, then the kids are going to also get pretty excited about it as well. So I'm hoping that we can come up with solutions to establish what the youth ministry needs to look like, and establish what the youth minister qualifications need to look like, and get the ball rolling so that when this next summer comes around, Lord willing, we don't have to deal with the COVID issues. We can jump right back into youth ministry and not have anything missing. We can just keep on running so that the kids don't even feel the stress that me personally, I'm kind of going through. Okay, there's a bead of sweat, so I'm stopping.
All right, I'm on. Whoa, too much. Okay, I'm going to let Brad dial it in. There we go. Okay, thanks, Jim. Thanks, Jason. So I just wanted to say, first of all, it is so awesome to see you guys. My goodness, this is it's been 6 months since I've seen some of my favorite people. So thank you all for coming, and I'm excited for this morning. I'm sorry there's not coffee. We made the agenda, and then we figured out logistics, which is going to be all of youth ministry planning stuff. We'll make a plan, and then the logistics will kind of throw a wrench in things. So I'm sorry if you don't have coffee, but I've heard water is a better energizer anyway. So drink water. A few ground rules today. I'm asking all of you to participate. This is a workshop. This isn't a lecture. I am not a professional in anything we're talking about today. I don't have any answers for you, so questions come from you guys. Assume best intentions when someone's speaking. Everyone is here for one reason, and that's because they love their kids, and they love the kids here collectively, and they want the best for them. What that looks like is always a matter of opinion, but assume best intentions. And I'd ask that you respond in less than 2 minutes. I'm going to use some of the Zoom netiquette that I learned, and when you reach 1 minute, I'm going to raise a finger. When you reach 1.5 minutes, 2 fingers. When you've reached 2 minutes, you're done, and then we're moving on. I've learned a lot from Zoom meetings that I think would really help in-person meetings, and that's one of them. Take texts or calls outside, please, and then take it easy on me. I've never done a youth workshop before. Oh, come on. And then as you're responding to the things we're talking about, because we're gonna dig in deep, I'm gonna ask you guys to be honest and vulnerable, at least with yourself, if not publicly. But when you do choose to speak, I would ask that you kind of self-regulate a little bit and ask, is my comment for this group, or is it something for Jim or for the elders? Like I said, I don't have any answers for you about what the next year looks like. So think about that and whether you need to go to Jim. And I love that the church leadership has identified one person that you can all rely on over this transition period and go to. And I called Jim for the first time yesterday, and he's a pretty easy to talk to guy. So.
I do have all the answers of what the next year is going to look like. I know exactly.
Or at least you will in 3 hours. A few logistical things. I've got the lapel mic, but we're recording this for the parents who couldn't attend, and I'll send out the worksheets afterwards, and they'll be able to watch the recording if they choose to. But I'm going to move the mic on the stand at least close to you when you're speaking, so if you'll give me a second to position that, just so it's picked up for the recording, not for the auditorium necessarily. All right, so our agenda, we are right on time, of course. So we're wrapping up the introduction right now. We'll jump into the first session right away. There's handouts. There's a pack of 4 papers. Does anyone need the papers? If you'll raise your hand, Case can get them for you. And then we've got pens and hard writing surfaces, the hymnals. So we'll do that session. We'll take a break. You can get a snack. You can go outside. You can congregate. You can talk. And then we'll be right back at 10:30 and jump into some activity planning, which you've got a worksheet for that as well. And then the big question, what are you looking for in a youth minister? Because this is a temporary period, and we want to provide the elders, and whenever there's a selection committee, some sort of unified voice of what's important to the parents. But of course, this is not the only avenue for you to provide that feedback. Some activity sign up, and then we'll be out of here by noon. All right, so we are here to respond to change as a community. This is just a season. This is not, we are not determining today what the future looks like for eternity. We're coming together as a church body to navigate what could be 3 months, what could be 6 months, what could be a year. So there's no definitive timeline. And David and I were joking last night about like the roles of people in a body. It's like, I'm an IT guy. And I said, I don't want to lead any activities or coordinate any youth events. That's not what I want to do. But I'm happy doing something like this, right? So we're all kind of stepping in some little way that we have something to offer, and all of you do. So don't feel like you all have to become youth ministers. Just be willing to help wherever you want to, really. And I hope you like my little icons. Now that Seth pulled out King Supers, I'm like, oh man, these are lame, but I thought they were so funny. So what I'd like to do is introductions. I know most of you, but it's been 6 months, so I forgot your names. But I'd like to go around the whole room and just introduce yourself, your name, give your kids' names and the ages of the ones that are in the youth group. And then I want you to think about what has been a positive surprise about your kids over the past 6 months. And it really has been 6 months since that spring break when our kids came home for good. And I quit traveling for work and spent a lot more time with family. So I'll go first while you guys are all thinking and not listening to me. So my name's Dane Johnson. I have 2 kids, Bonham and Soren. They are 7 and 4, so not in youth group and not about to be. Something that has been a positive surprise for me has been around how resilient they are, and how just being together as a family more has been, it's been good for me, but I've been surprised that they don't fight like brothers, right? They love playing together. But I also learned that they are also creatures of habit, and when we could establish some routine, and that when the oldest one was learning something, his mood was so much better. So he learned how to read, and now goes into books for hours at a time, and it's great. Jason?
All right, so my name is David Watson. My kids are Isaac and Natalie. Isaac is 12 and Natalie will be 10 next Friday. Positive surprise over the past 6 months. So Isaac has surprisingly reached out to more friends than I thought he had, being the introvert that he is. So that's been nice for me to see, that he is, he says he's an introvert, but even the introverts need friends and need people to talk to. So that's been great. Natalie, I'll just go with something super recent. As just now a 9-year-old, she surprised us all at dinner by saying how dirty her bathroom was and that she was going to clean it after dinner. And she did, in fact, do that. So that was very surprising.
I always tell Katie, if the dishes sit in the sink long enough, I will clean them. I just don't ever sit there long enough.
So there you go.
You got it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm Heather Meyer, and my husband Seth is working today, but we have 3 kids. We have Kelsey, who is 19 and just came out of the youth group. Colton is 17 and a senior this year, and Christopher is 11 and just started 6th grade, so he's just starting the youth group. Positive surprise. Probably, like Kelsey, I've seen just an amazing amount of maturity and resilience out of her. She had, a lot of milestones really turn back this year, especially in the last 6 months. So that's been a real blessing to see. And then for Colton, he's still kind of trying to figure this out. So it's been a little bit more turbulent, but he has taken on a lot of added responsibilities with me working at home, trying to guide Christopher with his learning process, and that has been a real help. And then Christopher, his positive is kind of taken a while to emerge as well, because the first few months were tough. But just since school has started the last couple weeks, one of the things that has come up as a positive surprise is how much of a leadership role he has taken with his peers in the virtual classroom, and just really helping the other kids that are struggling and trying to get them all on board. So that's been really inspiring to see.
My name is Miriam Rye, and I have 3 children. My youngest is still in elementary. She's 4th grade, but I have a 6th grader, Livia, coming into the youth group, and also Jeremiah is 8th grade. And I'm sure if I had more time to think about it, I could think about specifics. But the general thing is that my kids did go through a lot of disappointments this past spring and summer, for all of us, and even sadness and sorrow. And I've been really surprised also at how resilient they've been, but also how they've been able to express their sadness and their sorrow, and then turn to hope, to God, and be thankful for what they did have. I've been really grateful and inspired by their strength, sometimes them even saying, well, this This is just building our character, or we'll go down in the history books because of what we went through with COVID. So that's really been inspiring.
My name is Tara Tate. I have Abigail, who is 15 and a sophomore, and then Noah, who is 7. What has been a positive surprise, my kids have just adjusted really well. We've had a lot of changes over the last 6 months, and I just feel like they have really just, I feel like we all kind of got hit with a bus and getting scraped up off of the concrete. I think that they've handled it really well, so.
I didn't know if you needed to fill in all the stuff Jason left out or not. You're good. All right.
What is yours? I'm not supposed to touch it. Sorry. My name is Seth Turney, and this is Angela Turney. Our kids' names are Juliet, Liam, and Annalise. Juliet's just entering 6th grade, and then Liam's in 3rd grade, and Annalise is in 1st grade. Positive surprise is that my kids exist 24 hours of the day. They are always there, which has been really delightful to see them throughout, like, as we've all kind of had to be a family and living at the house 24/7. Like, we get to experience the kids in all their stages throughout the day of what they're going through. So that's been, and then just how resilient and adaptable they are to every situation has just been really good.
I was just going to say, I think it was about 5 weeks before they said, "What's going on?" They were just oblivious. And yeah, that was very surprising to me. Like, don't you realize we're not in school anymore?
This is recorded.
I'm Taryn Morrow. My husband Brad is in the back. We have Brinley, Brielle, and Brock, 5th grade, 3rd grade, and 1st grade. So Brinley will be coming into the youth group here soon. And a positive surprise, I think, is just their creativity, watching them explore and create games and things around the house just to keep themselves entertained has been fun to watch. And then, of course, just how resilient they've been with everything, and just their innocence in all of this.
All right.
Yeah, we're Steve and Christy, and you all know us. And we have Hannah, who's 18, but still a senior, and Noah, who is 13 and in 7th grade. And Steve's going to give positive surprises.
I was kind of surprised about how well the kids got along at home until like the past month. But it was really good for quite a while. Surprisingly good. So.
Months. Yeah.
Months.
My name's Russell. Kids are Royce and Brooklyn. Royce going into 6th grade. Brooklyn's in 3rd grade. Positive surprise. They're both still alive. No, yeah, like others have said, you know, they had milestones kind of right at the beginning of this pandemic. You know, both of them had birthdays, and they both adjusted pretty well to not being able to have actual parties and get-togethers with friends and family. So I think, yeah, they've just adjusted and kind of roll with the punches.
Blake and Corey Stevens. We have 2 kids in the youth group and 3 kids overall. So 8th grader is Jack, and then Jane is in 6th grade, and then Mabel's in 4th grade. So I guess positive surprise is just the youth group was a big positive for us this summer. It was one of the very few activities. They had swim team and they had youth group, so it was one of the very few activities that they had. So that was a big positive, to have activities and have things and be able to go around other kids. So I was sad to see Daniel leaving, and I kind of pictured like, all right, no youth group, but I guess you guys are rallying together and doing stuff, and maybe parents will be able to pull together and get a youth group going for this year, because I know I was real bummed out because I thought of it as like, well, there's another loss like swim team's over and youth group's done. Now we have 0 activities. So hopefully that's a positive going forward.
Shannon, or who's talking?
Chad and Shannon Chandler. We have 3 kids, Case, Jake, and Nash. Case is 13 in 8th grade. Jake is 11 in the 6th grade, and Nash is 7, and he's what, third? Second grade. And a positive thing that we've seen in the last 6 months, or that I have anyway, is that they're turning into real leaders. Their willingness to go forward, and whenever they're on a job site with me, we go to work, they own it, and it's something that I've been really surprised with. It's just how they have how they are turning into guys who want to help out. So.
And how they help each other. They've been, like everyone said, really resilient. Kids are amazing. And I've been really proud of them and the way they're not fighting a lot, and they take care of each other. I love it.
Cool. Thank you.
I'd introduce my kids, but they're older than everybody in here.
I introduced mine, and they're younger than everyone's. So.
Well, Cindy and I have 2 boys. The oldest is 36. How many here are younger than my oldest? A couple of you. He's in like 20th grade. I don't know.
I hope he's got past that.
He went all the way. He's a professor at Princeton University, mechanical and aerospace engineering. If your kids need what's the word? I don't know.
Tutoring?
Yeah, he can do that. So for him, I think the positive surprise is New Jersey just opened their restaurants to inside dining this past week. So he learned how to do all of his online teaching and everything. My youngest is 34. He's on the opposite coast. He's down in Carlsbad, California. And he works for a company called Rockstar, who is a subsidiary of Take-Two Interactive. He runs all the servers that your kids play all their video games on. So he learned he can work for 6 months from home and never leave his apartment. So for what's that's worth.
All right, thanks. Okay, so we are going to jump in, and you should have a session 1 worksheet. And what we're going to do with this is I'm not going to tell you what we're doing. I'm going to ask you a question. I want you to think about it. You don't have to share what you write down. So you're writing for yourself. There will be an opportunity to share if you'd like. Does everyone have the worksheets? If you don't, raise your hand. Okay. What's that? Every person. And if you don't want your spouse to see what you're writing, then you can sit 1 seat apart and write in private. Yeah, like Jason and Tamara, like opposite ends of the room. It says session 1 at the top of the first box. So it has 4 boxes, peak experience. Okay. And I'm going to put the questions up on the slide. I'll wait till everyone gets one. So this is going to be a progressive exercise. We'll answer each question individually, and then we'll come around at the end of the last question for a chance to talk about what we just did, the exercise. And then I even have a bonus question that's not on the paper, but there's no prize if you answer it. All right, so session 1, question 1. This is the peak experience box. Think of a peak experience your child has had at any time when they were excited and they felt alive. What did they say about it? How did they feel? Who was involved? And what did you notice? And I'll give you guys 5 minutes or so, 3 to 5 minutes. Yes. Any peak experience does not have to be tied to youth group. And there is a just kidding. There's no right answer. Okay. I forgot to mention, put your name on the top of the worksheet just in case you lose it, and then your kid's name so you remember who your kids are and who you're actually writing about on these worksheets. In case you forget, you're writing about your kids, not yourself. All right. Question 2. What are things you value most about your kids? And what do your kids value most about you? Does anyone wake up to that alarm? Like, that is evil. Does anyone need a few more seconds to wrap up? Okay. Just look up when you're done. For some of you that are sitting close to each other, I'm noticing some answers being stolen, so just saying. All right. Question 3. What are 3 things that you pray about for your kids? Does anyone need a few more seconds? Okay. Is this the most you've ever thought on a Saturday morning before 10 o'clock? All right, final question. How can what you know about your kids' peak experiences, your values, and your prayers be used to make this period, referring to the youth group, a blessing for your kids? How can you pull all that stuff together? I need a few more seconds. That was a bigger question. Okay. Okay, everyone good? Okay. All right, so now I'm going to open it up, and I'd like you to, if you're willing to, or whoever is willing to, share what you wrote down in this exercise. I'd ask that you keep your response to 2 minutes so we can hear from everyone that wants to. So whether you want to address just one question or all four, or one kid and not all your kids, that's fine. So anyone want to? No one wants to? Good, that means you got like really personal and vulnerable, so awesome. All right, hang on a sec, let me bring the mic over. It doesn't have to be like super close.
Is it on? Can you hear me? So question number 2, his values. The boy has endless energy. He is literally up at 5 a.m. every morning and does not go to sleep until 9 o'clock at night, which is okay because I do the same thing. But his absolute happiness in everything. You know, one of the events that we realized he's going to be a happy kid. He went to a job site with us and he accidentally opened up a electric panel and there was a hornet nest in there. And he starts screaming bloody murder, and I go running around there, I pick him up and I grab him. And as I'm running with him, he got stung at least twice, but he was crying and he was like, why did they do that to me? I was just trying to see what they were doing. And he had no idea that, you know, he doesn't have a clue about danger, which is kind of scary, but he stays positive no matter what happens. And to be able to gather that and use that and continue to make sure he doesn't lose that is going to be huge. And I think the youth group is going to be a big part of that. But the other value that he takes, that I think he takes in us, is our companionship. He's always asking Mom to play video games with him, and always asking me to do stuff outside with him. So he loves being around us. So that's all I'm sharing. Nothing else.
Who next? I'm smiling behind the mask, actually, so you can't see that. Like trying to be like an inviting face, but I don't have very inviting eyes, I don't think. So. All right, Heather, thank you. Brad, hang just a sec.
Yeah.
How's this picking up? Is it okay?
Should I stand up? Is that better if I stand up?
How's the sound? Okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
That works.
And then mute me.
So, one of the things that stood out for me throughout all questions was, wow, I need to talk to my kids more. So that was a little bit convicting. But since Jason already did values, I thought I would talk about the prayers that we often pray at our house for our kids. And number one is kind of along the lines of the hymn, more of Christ in my kids and less of them is always our number one prayer. But then two is that in a world that is constantly telling people that we're not enough or we need this product or that product, that our kids always know their value, both to God and to us. Because sometimes even as parents, we do a cruddy job of communicating that to our kids. And for the third prayer is that their friends and mentors and coworkers and colleagues have godly influences on them, whether they're in Christ or not, and that they know that they can grow and learn from other folks that they're dealing with in the world. So that's kind of my 3 prayers for them.
All right, who next? All right, Blake. This thing's heavy. I needed a cardio workout.
I like the way these questions were all laid out. It makes you think a lot. And so, like, thinking about the peak experiences, like, I think church camp for my kids happens a lot. So it wasn't like an exact experience, but something about just being around a bunch of other kids for an extended period of time. And I know for me, just seeing some people's kids baptized, you know, at church camp and some of those things, even when I'm not there that long, it's like a, you know, good peak experience, like a memory that's stuck in my head. But they always are coming up with different stories and things like that. So I definitely think there's some magic there. I don't exactly know what it is, but that's maybe something to try to go down in the floor to recreate. Maybe peak experience for Jane is a little bit just simple, maybe with the neighborhood kids, but involves bringing other kids in because one of her really good friends is Mormon, and they're like pretty Mormon, but maybe not as Mormon as a lot of Mormons, in that they'll talk, yeah, they'll talk to other people. Some they, you know, won't even really go beyond like being like gentle friends. So it's just an area where you got to kind of navigate and that sort of thing. And then another one of her friends, her parents are pretty atheist, I'm sure. But they may be coming to youth group, you know, and activities like I think both of those other girls. So that's an opportunity and something that reaches out as just other people. And I know Jack's had several different friends come to the youth group and I think enjoyed themselves and maybe want to be involved, where I think their parents are believers, but they don't really go to church on a regular basis maybe, you know. And then activities, I think Mabel's maybe are just accomplishments or activities. And so then that kind of goes through for my prayers for them was like feeling God's love, valuing themselves and seeing their value in God, you know, and not in any sort of outward accomplishments or the world or anything. And then maybe accountability and work ethic. So I think maybe that could all come together. And some of the things about church camp is just God's love and acceptance, and their value, that we can learn about that and that they can have that in the heart and maybe bring other people in. And if they come up with maybe more of their own service projects and work together for themselves to do it, that might kind of wrap up around and create some of these big life events in a manufactured sort of way through youth group.
For experience, I just kind of focused on Jake. He was the one that came to mind the most because I think honestly the most excited I've ever seen any of my kids, is when Jake was baptized. And he talked about that experience. Really, I made him wait a whole year, and he wanted it so bad. And anytime he saw someone at camp or whatever, it meant the world to him. And he craved it more than I've ever seen anybody crave baptism. So that was a peak experience for him, you know. And then things that I pray for my kids, it's that they always look to God and that they use wisdom and discretion in their relationships and that they are safe. Those are my 3 main prayers for my kids. And bringing it all together, because even with the values, they always look out for other people and making their lives better around them and it not just being about them. They're pretty good at that and they really work hard at that. So for the blessing, I would just say, spiritual guidance is the key in everything. And that they will just, no matter what else is going on, just look to God. And so that's something I would really want to focus on in youth group, is spirituality.
Okay, so I'll go through real quick for Natalie and then real quick for Isaac. So the peak experience that I can remember for Natalie was on her birthday. She received a party cannon that she'd been asking for forever, and she blew up just as much as the party cannon did. She loved it, and the used party cannon, you can only use it once. It shoots everything all over the yard. I get to mow it up for the next several months. This was last year. She still has it and carries it around and loves that. So as far as her values go, she always makes a friend. She's always thinking of others, and she sees me as Mr. Fix-It. I pray for Christ in her life. I also pray for safety, and then I know that more and more she's becoming her own person, so I pray for her path. And then as far as a blessing, I would just to surround her with Christian friends and an environment where it's not odd to talk about God or Christ. It's easier these days because they're all home, so we get to talk about it in the home a lot, but a lot of times we send our kids off into the world, and it's odd to talk about God or Christ just in general in the world, so a place like that. So for Isaac, we had gone to the North Pole in Colorado Springs, and I made him ride his first roller coaster, and he would not stop talking about it afterward. That was his face and demeanor. He always does the right thing. That kid. He also asks me about answers for school and life all the time. And then as far as the prayer and the blessing, same thing. Same thing. Yeah.
First of all, thank you for these questions because I think it helped me sort of synthesize some things. So I appreciate that. It's a great exercise. I was thinking about Jesus in his teen years, and there's a scripture in Luke that says he grew in wisdom and stature and in the favor of God and man. And so that's been a prayer that I've been praying for my kids for a while. And I think as we enter the teen years, I'll be praying that more, because it encompasses everything: emotional maturity, spiritual maturity, relational maturity, and even physical maturity. So that's just one of my prayers, and my blessing is that that we would cultivate their relationships with others in a spiritual setting, and that we would help them have adventure and creative experiences, and that they would want to learn scripture, and that they would, ultimately, that we would help them love God and love others.
So the peak experience that came to my mind for two of my kids is the first time that they ever flew by themselves. And wow, that was something that they did independently. Like, they were sent off with a parting crew, and they were received, by grandparents who were waiting, at the doors the second that they walked off the plane. And one of the things that I just kind of put together through this exercise was that, the emotions of like excitement, but nervousness, and then being semi, afraid of just what is it going to be like, and can I do this all on my own, being the same in that peak experience as being some of what is experiencing right now, and just our kids of being excited about what's to come, but not really knowing, and maybe having some nervousness about what this is going to be, and just realizing that when we talk about that with our kids, like, it loses some of the power of just being afraid and talking about trusting God. And that when my kids come up with these ideas and I'm right there with them participating and cheering them on, that it's the best that it can be. if I can use my gifts to help encourage and help them succeed in their ideas, those things always are really positive experiences in their life.
If you make eye contact with me, do this. I'm just going to keep staring at you until you do this. That's awesome. It seems like a lot of peak experiences, you heard from other people as they were talking, but peak experiences for kids at this age, a lot of it is doing something they're scared of, like stepping out of their comfort zone, but also opportunities for independence. And I mean, you know this better than I do because your kids are older, but your kids learn so much from you, but so much from those around them. And at some point, they quit wanting to learn from parents. I was a homeschool kid. That happened pretty early for me. And that's where youth groups and co-parenting almost come into play. All right, bonus question, and we're past our break time, but this is my favorite exercise, so we can go a little bit longer, and then we'll keep the break for the same amount of time. So bonus question, how did this activity help frame your expectations of Meadowlark Youth Group? And this is just something to talk about.
I think one of the things that came to mind doing the peak experience for my own kids, which I didn't talk about, was their individual talents had opportunity to grow, and they felt that sense of purpose. And so one of the things, as far as seeing that in the context of the Meadowlark Youth Group, is we have to know our kids. We have to know what resonates and speaks to them. And so what could we do to get to that a little bit better, both as a parent committee and then also as, down the road we're onboarding a new youth minister.
And you said with the last section, you were talking about how, I need to talk to my kids more. It's like, you are the best person to know what your kids need for sure. And I hope you're using this time to find it out what they need from a youth group as well.
I think what I gathered from it so far is involvement and how we as parents should be involved. I mean, coming from me, who has not been involved much in church in my life, it shows me that, being involved is a big deal. Like, I need to talk to the Myers kids and the Martins kids and, not just my own. I need to, form a relationship with, everybody. So I think that's what stuck out to me the most.
Cool.
What I took away from this experience is, something that just came up to me knowing my kids, but just people in general, is how important relationships are. And I still see the youth group as, it's church. And I didn't grow up with a youth group, so I do know that those relationships that formed outside of just my parents, even if at that time they didn't seem, anything great, how just someone being interested in me and talking to me. And then, of course, also the kids I did get to see from time to time and other churches. And yes, fellowship is just very important, even for my introvert child. It's not a extrovert-introvert thing. We all want to love and be loved. And this just really cemented that in me because it's part of my values and their values that they're forming.
Cool, thanks.
I know. As we did this exercise, it made me realize,
because I was a homeschool child. I didn't grow up with a youth group. And I do feel like it's ultimately parents' responsibilities to really carry the weight of their children's spiritual development. But there's a whole other aspect which Blake talked about. There's this evangelism aspect. We know from research that children come to God, most people come to God during those teen years. So it's crucial and important just from an evangelism perspective. But as I was doing this and talking about Juliet's peak experience, it made me realize how much she values encouragement from those who are just a little bit further along in life. And this activity made me just think, like, I want to cultivate that for her, that it's not, that she has some of those peer-to-peer relationships and maybe a peer older teen mentor relationships that point to Jesus. And that, I think, is one of the huge values that comes from a youth group.
I'm lingering. All right. Anyone else? You already had a turn, but you can, since that crew's so quiet, you can take
So
it.
yeah, and any time you can tell me you're saying too much. But one other thing that I think is important to capture as we're all together is we can plan, and we don't know what the context of the next year is. I think Jim alluded to that earlier. And so, that's one thing I think we need to have kind of at the front of our minds as well, is that, we may have some limitations in doing some of the things that we brainstormed today. And so I just wanted to put that kind of from the back of my mind into the front of the room for everybody to kind of have.
Cool, thanks. All right, no one else? All right. I grew up in a youth group, a few different ones. I moved a lot, and different types of churches. Some were organized, some had youth ministers, others didn't. But as you, Miriam, as you were sharing, like your summary of all this and how this is framing your point of view on Meadowlark Youth, is when other people in the church know your name, right? Or you, as a kid. So I'm thinking back when I was a kid, and I hadn't thought about this till you were sharing that. But when older kids would come up to me, or other parents of my friends, and they knew my name at least, you wanted to be more a part of their community, right? I'm awful with names. I forget all your names, and I forget your kids' names, or at least mix them up. So is it awkward if I ask you what your kid's name is and then go talk to them? Okay, cool. Yes, we got Christy's hand up. Yes.
One of the things that we made sure of when our oldest was going through the youth group and younger is that she had at least 2 adults who were not us that she could go to. We had phone numbers in her phone for her that she could call. And we were very, very, we made sure that we did that. It was a very concerted effort to do that. And I think that that's a really good point. I think it's really good that your kids be able to go to someone else if they are not comfortable talking to you about something. So, yes, that's a good idea.
Okay. Well, we're going to wrap this one up then, if there's no other thoughts you'd like to share, and we will take a break. It's 15 minutes? Do you need 15 minutes? 10 minutes? 10? 10. Okay, 10 minutes. We will be back at 10:36. There's lots of food and dead battery. Okay, there we go. Okay, the next thing we're going to work on is event planning. So go ahead and get your event planner out. And I'll give a few. Okay, so you have an idea now after the last activity about what's important to you, what's important to your kids, and I want you to kind of hold on to that and use that to frame activity planning. Like, this isn't about just making a ton of fun events, right? We know we want more than that. We want some of those things for sure. So as we're doing this, this is not a time where I'm going to ask you to sign up for anything. I'm not going to ask you to lead anything. Just because you have an idea doesn't mean you have to own the idea. Let's just get these things out. This is kind of a brainstorming session. But let's see. Just a few thoughts I threw up here. We want all kids to be able to be a part of something, not necessarily everything. 100% participation is not the goal. Plan for the best. We're not going to get into logistics. There's going to be a lot that will kill a lot of your ideas on its own just because of school and COVID logistics and all that, like not having coffee in the morning. So let's just plan what you want. Let's plan for a normal time, and then worry about the details later. Share your ideas even if you don't want to lead it, and don't shoot down any ideas yet. 2020 logistics may do that for you. All right, so let me see. This is going to be, I need to hear from you guys more than me talking. Instead of me running around with the mic, I'll just try to repeat what people say. So I want to throw on here things that have already been scheduled. If there's some event in the next 3 months that's already on the calendar, I don't know the youth group calendar at all, so if there's something, throw it out there. Jason, Chad, you might know some things. Recurring events, what are currently going on? So what is currently happening with the youth group? What is a recurring event or planned event already? NCCC. When is NCCC? July. Okay, so there's nothing, NCCC is not yet reserved for Meadowlark? Okay. Is there someone who's leading that effort right now? Seth? Okay. Okay, so NCCC, and July is so far in the future, like, it'll take care of itself. Other events that are on the calendar, are there any? VBS. Okay, and that would be in March? June. Oh, yeah. My kids go to that. I don't even. All right, any other events on the calendar? Encounter? Oh. I hear a lot of J months, January, June, July.
So probably others know, like the attorney, but when we were first in the Meadowlark encounter, I didn't know what all that stuff was. So maybe when we say it, if you know like what it is, because I remember being like, we don't know what your peak is or
Okay, what is Encounter?
So Encounter is for high school students, so it may not apply to a lot of the folks in this group. But it's typically a week-long kind of camp for the high school students who go down to Texas. I love it. It's really great. But that's usually in June.
June.
It's always right after VBS.
Sorry, well,
Was that 9th through 14th?
June 10th?
It's always right after VBS.
Okay. So after VBS, June 10th through 14th, possibly. That's when it was last year. So that's high school. Is there another activity that's like? Win- Winter Peak? So this year, Winter Peak was around February.
Yeah, we usually don't go because it's usually conflicts with my kids' lacrosse schedule. But there's also one that's called Middle School Madness that tends to happen around the same year or same time of year that is just middle school type of thing.
That they combined Winter Peak and. And is that a Meadowlark thing, or is that like a area-wide? Okay. So those are all next year. Is there anything over the next 3 months?
Well, there was a fall retreat.
So fall retreat in November, is that officially canceled? Okay. Okay. Okay, so there's nothing on the calendar for the next 3 months. Okay. Did you say Christmas party in the summer? Oh. Sorry, the masks. Christmas party. Cool. Well, we probably won't be able to do that again. Okay. Christmas party. Jason, is there anything you're aware of over the next 3 months? No, there's a lot of stuff. Okay. We'll do that in a second. I wanted to get up anything that is normal, like or recurring type thing. Trunk or treat. Are there recurring events ongoing right now, like Bible studies or classes? Nothing. Small group on Sunday night? Okay. All right, so to recap, I'll try to put this in order and you can correct me if I heard it wrong. Let's see, we've got in October, trunk or treat, possibly, fall retreat, possibly in November, Christmas party, December, and then winter peak, mid-school Magnus combination, February, and then VBS and Encounter in June and NCC in July. And those are things that the youth group might be involved in at some point or might not happen. Christy? Okay. Junior, senior banquet, April. You, when is that? April.
The other thing in the spring is the junior, senior banquet.
So those are two different things. Got it, in February, February 14th, all right? We'll follow up with these, yeah, do we have, that would be helpful. Do we have a whiteboard or a marker board that we could grab? Thanks, Brad. Brad's on it. Okay, no, that's a good idea. I should have had that. Recurring events, there's a small group, which was during the summer, so that's not currently happening now. Is that correct? Okay.
Typically the way the youth group has done small groups is that in the summer it's family style. And then, and this is the way it has been, it doesn't have to be the way that it continues to be, is that during the school year, it's been youth group only, like gathering. There wasn't great participation within the last year, and so. It was usually like some for lunch. Right, yeah, we were doing like some lunch things and.
Okay.
So I think that it was kind of evolving anyway, so, you know, whatever ideas people want to throw out and what sticks is probably the best way to kind of try and figure things out.
Okay, cool. Christy? Oh. Oh, look at that. Well, that's helpful. a cheat sheet. Okay, so. Cool. And And what's the current, Jim, with Sunday school, what's the current game plan? Oh. Well, the mic's not on. Well, here, I'll turn this on and then I'll go to the back.
Oh, I can probably yell loud enough. Oh.
Steve's on it. Thanks, Steve. You can mute me and turn on Jim.
Gee, it's on. Sorry. Steve didn't warn me first. Right now, the county has been pretty good at giving us variances. So other than Sunday morning worship, every time we're going to have something here at the building, we have to apply through the County Department of Health for a variance. Like, for instance, this meeting, I had to apply to get their approval to have it. So we can start classes up, but you've got to do a variance for all the classes that you do. The Shepherds had met several weeks ago talking about at what point do we want to pull the trigger and try to start up all the Sunday morning classes. And the concern is a lot of experts are saying that October we're going to see a tenfold increase in COVID again. It's going to behave more like a seasonal flu. And what we didn't want to do is go through and have everybody do all that planning just to be shut down again. So what we've kind of have said is we want to just hold tight with where we are, other than we're looking at going live maybe for the Wednesday night, streaming the class rather than recording it, that Jeff and Brad could just do it live, but we pretty much have left it to Jeff and Brad. I've already got that variance approved, so that's their decision when they want to do that live versus pre-record. But just because we have said we don't want to start up everything for the church right now and shut down, if the youth parents felt it's important enough and we wanted to do something just for a youth class, very easily done. Any day of the week, all we've got to do, and I've become an expert at submitting variances to the county, so we can do that if that's what this group decides they want to do.
And I would just, point out too, is that it doesn't have to be in person. They could do some Zoom.
Yeah.
So some of those, whatever the group decides that we want to do could be done virtually.
Yeah, Daniel was doing some Zoom meetings. He said he had some mixed experiences. Some kids just, you couldn't get them engaged. Others really looked forward to it. So, all the possibilities are available right now, whether we do something over Zoom, if some of the kids and parents want them to come together, we can do that too. So it's just anything we do in this building, any variance requires the mass. So that's kind of the downside of getting together here. But as everybody knows, it's nice just when you've been cooped up in the house, it is nice to get out even if you've got to wear the mask.
I got a question, and I think it's more political or philosophical, so it's probably more of a leadership thing. But I just had an idea of being outside is like, if I had to be a youth minister, I would have trouble with the size of the group because it's so small, it's hard to plan activity. I know they played a lot of games, and like you thought up a game like a coach, and then you get there and the game works great with 10 kids, but you got 4 in the game and you can't really play tag with 4 people. It's just not as good.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's other youth groups that we can help join together and do some activities with them. And if that has to be a Church of Christ denomination, or I know there's a lot of smaller churches that I know people that went here, now go there.
Yeah.
A lot of them don't even have their own building.
I see no reason why, if we want it to combine with other, personally, I think it's good to expose our youth to, say, other youth in different churches that might have different things. I don't see anything wrong with it. Where'd Brad run off to? Well, I know has he done any combined events with other campus groups? I'm sure he has. So I see no reason why we can't do that with our own youth.
Yeah, because our demographics is we have a lot of young kids coming in and just a few high schoolers, but like, if we got together with other group, like, hey, maybe Colton has, now we can meet with a whole bunch of.
Yeah, I think it's a great learning opportunity. I think the one thing to do is to teach our youth, which I don't think is any issue, to be respectful of any group they have that might have different interpretations of Scripture. They worship different, to respect that. Just learn from it, and don't challenge each other. Well, what you're doing is wrong, and anything like that. Just accept them for what they're doing and learn from it. But I think it could be a good opportunity.
Are there other groups that we've historically done that with? I know the area-wise, different groups, but I don't know.
So I was with the youth ministry intern at Rockland for 4 years. And during that time, we did lots of area-wise with different churches. We love it. A bunch of different churches down in Denver. And I think that they definitely did that. Standards for like a youth ministry group that youth ministers get together in this Rock Range area. So it was mostly Church of Christ. But yeah.
Christy?
One thing to keep in mind, if Sunday morning class is something that we're on the board with, I had just started teaching, and I got to do one class and then go ahead. So there is a class on Ephesians sitting there waiting, and a teacher who's hungry to teach. So that's already in place.
Steve, could you turn me on? Thanks. Okay, so Sunday class has been prepped. It might look different we can apply for variances. We won't do the logistics planning now, but that's something that's on the board now is get something going for a Sunday class. It could be virtual for a while, but there's something ready. Yeah.
Anything to get them engaged with each other right now is that's what we do.
I will say that, so Abigail was one of the ones who didn't engage in the Zoom stuff last year, and there were a lot of other factors, but part of it was, and I feel really, Angela and I talk about how we feel really busy, our kids are in school right now, 5 days a week, and it is amazing. Those kids had to sit in front of the computer all day, and then a Zoom call was scheduled at 4 o'clock. Abigail was like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I cannot be in front of the screen any longer. And I feel like a lot of kids are being asked to do that again now, and so then to have youth activities only on Zoom is going to be really hard for them to engage and have that desire to sit in front of the screen for another hour.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah, and I think especially too as the weather starts changing and they're less able to go out and do outdoor activities, I think it's going to kind of necessitate us to look at what can we do in the building. But yeah, we can do a one-off with the youth if if youth parents are really feel that, hey, this is something we really need to do. We can do a one-off for any of that.
And again, we're not trying to get everyone to come to everything or to get kids to be uncomfortable, like going to Zoom when they're tired of it, when they're zoomed out. But let's get back to the dreaming mode. What are some things you would love to, let's pretend we don't have to deal with all the logistics. What would be some things you would love to see over the next 3 months? A Saturday what? Saturday outdoor activity? Cool. Saturday outdoor activity, 1 per month, is on the board.
Yes, so I know you just said don't think about COVID.
Oh, Miriam.
This is what I was thinking for fall. I was trying to be practical, like instead of having a fall retreat where we can't be together, maybe having an outdoor we go hiking somewhere where the weather is really cold. We all need to get snowshoes. And the other thing was a service project someone mentioned. I didn't know. Well, that's outdoors. That's still doable. As far as imagining things, yes, I mean, I have one kid who would do okay, I think, in singing things, because she likes to listen and participate, and another one who will zone out after a while. I was wondering if we could do small groups if needed, and I think we could willing to host, for example. If we can't meet somewhere here for them to be in person, for those who might have a harder time focusing on a screen.
Yeah. And one thing that I've noticed is good is some established routine, that it's available whether you attend or not. And so, like, I've joined different groups and I'm not there every week, but it's nice to know that it's occurring the same. So that's something to keep in mind as we get into the later part where we're signing up for things, is some pattern of repetition. Angela?
We did a lot of fun things over the summer, but there was no structure. And maybe on Zoom, I don't know, we didn't attend the Zoom class, Zoom links, except for one person. But, so I want to see the kids in the Word. I want to see them, some sort of Bible study, Bible class, something. But in the fall, I mean, I'm not ready to have some answers really itch. But, I mean, as a group, I think it would be really valuable.
Yeah, and if you think back to our other activity, it's not just about giving the kids things to do, but this is a time for them to grow.
If they just do activities, and it's no different than school.
thank you for doing it. No, don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. I need you to keep doing this.
Certainly, some of these can be combined. When you do a Saturday outdoor event, have a devotional, short devotional that goes along with it, and that kind of gets the Bible study in with it, combine all those.
I'd like to see us do some kind of in-service, where we're starting to train our boys and girls even to do the stuff that we, the Lord's Supper, leading prayers, leading songs, and stuff like that. Training for our youngsters to do this kind of stuff, because we're to the point now where we need that, and we got all these young kids coming up that need to know this stuff, that don't do it.
Yeah, other things that if COVID kind of puts a damper on it for the time being, but Daniel and I, weeks ago, Daniel was very passionate about a lot of the issues going around, especially around racism. And, I had talked to him about, we don't have a big opportunity here in Fort Collins unless, we reached out, say, to the Hispanic community, but certainly encouraged him, plan some events with the youth group, taking them down to Denver, combining with another church and going out and doing service projects, say with some of the, whether it's a black community within Denver, but finding an underrepresented group out there we could do service projects with.
Another one I had, Chad, area wides, if you'll throw that on there. Area wides. Okay. Any other ideas? Sort of. That might, yeah, some sort of weekly blast. Okay. Jason? Any? Oh, okay, cool. BLEA. One is much better, and it's not mine. This will definitely be a challenging time to build some sense of community, and so you guys have your hands full. Christy, did you want to add something real quick? Hmm. Yeah. Cool. I do want to, we're going to come back to activities, we are, and sign up for things, but I want to make sure we have time for the other piece. So, 10 seconds? Yeah. All right.
One of the things that I think could maybe bridge some of that divide of the age is like some mentoring and, you know, like having some big groups from maybe the college age group to talk, you know, with the high school ages, and then some of the high school kids could, you know, check in with one or two of the younger middle school kids, you know, kind of be their go-to person. And because, you know, there's one high school boy, maybe some of the parents might be some of those mentor spots for the middle schools as well. So I just think that would be, you know, maybe a good benefit, something we haven't been doing.
Yeah.
And that's one of the ideas around this concept of having lack of better terms, a youth committee, you know, where we have at least 4 individuals who are kind of leading that, to where, you know, a youth minister can't be everywhere at every time, but if we had another group, when I was down in West Houston, you couldn't tell the youth minister from those ministry team leads that were involved, and so that really helps. And I think we kind of picked 4 now, because we're looking at maybe 2 would be working primarily with middle school, 2 with the high school, and then youth minister would be kind of floating.
Yeah, and we'll talk on that at the end a little bit as well. And since I have the mic, I want to throw out an idea. I know I learn the most when I'm teaching, and it might be an opportunity for the older kids, the high schoolers, let them be a teacher to actually have a structured class that they're responsible for teaching to the younger kids, or to do those email blasts or something. I don't know. It may be the dumbest idea ever. You don't have to write it down. It's lame.
I think we're in a rebuilding
Mhm.
phase, and even with the younger kids, like, yeah, we're talking about these great kids coming up, but I still see them as a rebuilding phase for a ministry. And as you build a ministry, anyone that's built or started a ministry, in every regard, you have to have a core set of pros that you work with, and you give them work, and that's how Jesus worked with the disciples. Those were his core. And we got to realize that the middle school core is different than the high school core, and that we have 2 cores that we are continually building, and we got to work with this. Like one's not better than the other, and there's definitely this idea we got to realize that we're building the core. But these kids that are in middle school, they're in a unique part of life where they're transitioning from elementary school to high school. That's their big thing that they're overcoming because of growth.
Mhm.
You overcome is how you're growing. So they're overcoming that transition from elementary school to high school. The high school kids are transitioning from middle school to college or trade or just inner life in general. And so we got to make sure that we're really building these core ministries as we move forward.
Yeah. Yeah, the distinction between junior high kids and high school kids, and how do you reach all of them instead of trying to reach all and reaching no one. but being able to reach them individually and as age groups or class groups. Okay, cool. Thanks for that. Like I said, we'll revisit this before we dismiss today. But now, we're moving on to the thing that you're all really here for, is build a minister. All right, so this is session 3 worksheet. So what I want you to do is write down, I gave you 2 boxes, mine on the left and others on the other side. So I want you to write down things that you think are important. So I'll walk through these real quick. Knowledge. What would you expect a youth minister? Let me preface this again, sorry. The outcome from this is for the benefit of the selection committee and the elders. This is a time where there's kind of a collective youth parent voice of what is important to you collectively when looking for a youth minister. This isn't the only opportunity for you to share your opinions and thoughts. You can always talk to Jim privately afterwards. When there's a selection committee, you can voice your opinions there as well. But first, knowledge. What would you expect a youth minister to know? And this is different from their abilities, which is what you expect them to be good at doing. Right on mine. In the mine box, that means you, not Dane. Yes. So maybe 5 things, 1 to 5 things. Abilities, what are they able to do? Such as drive a van of kids. That is an ability, not a knowledge. You don't want them to know how to do it, but not be able to. Characteristics, what should they be like as a person? What is important to you when you think about their characteristics? And then anything else you want to throw on there. And the others category, the others box, is when people are sharing their priorities. If you like it, you can write it down. If you don't like it, you can write it down and put an X through it. So I'll give you a few minutes to work on that. And sometimes it's nice to have a frame of reference, but if you think back to when you were in youth group, if you had a formative youth minister, what about them made them formative? Or on the flip side of that, what about them was not good? But then, of course, thinking of your own kids' needs as well. I had a professor when I was in university. Whenever his wife called, his phone he had a special ringtone, and it would go, wah, 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 warning, warning, the wife is calling, the wife is calling, and it went off every time. You can take the soundbite from the recording of this and use that. There you go. Does anyone need a few more minutes or seconds? Okay. A few more seconds, not minutes. Okay. For the sake of time, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to share, and so I don't have to walk around with the mic, I'd like you to share a few things from knowledge. We'll get people to share 5 different things, what you want a youth minister to know, and then you can make notes in the others box on your own sheet of what people say. But you don't need to like give the whole backstory about why that's important to you. Just give one word, if you can. Two words is okay. 1 or 2 words. That way I can repeat it. It's on the recording, and then other people can write it down. So, who has a thing about knowledge? What is important to you in a youth minister that they know? The Bible. Rooted, that was 3 words. Christ rooted. How does the, okay. Okay, other knowledge items? Okay, developmental milestones of kids. No current culture. Okay, Steve? Current culture? Or, okay, Miriam? So you want the youth minister to know about the Meadowlark operating procedures as an engineer.
I think being open-minded to seeing things from different godly perspectives, that there's difference of opinion even under the umbrella of being godly.
So tied back to knowledge, what knowledge would they have that would?
I think just like being open to kind of different understandings, is having that knowledge.
So having a knowledge of other religious denominations, other groups, okay. Other things that you would expect them to know. Okay. Abilities. What should they be able to do? Build relationships. Able to diffuse. Okay. Okay. To So are you talking about the ability to delegate? Okay. Okay. Jason? To teach? Able to teach? Okay. Able to organize and plan. Christy? Able to navigate IT. Okay, so that's kind of a knowledge thing, knowledge of apps and technology, and maybe knowledge of where kids are interacting with the world. Steve?
The ability to engage with hard topics thoughtfully.
Okay, the ability to engage with hard topics thoughtfully. Good. Able to speak with kids on their level. So an ability to relate with kids of all ages, and I have parents, ability to relate to parents too. Okay. Other abilities.
I think it's important for them to know their own limitations, and like what I alluded to, be able to ask for assistance and know that there's someone else that can help out.
I'm going to split that into two then, a knowledge of their skills, and then an ability to, what was the other piece?
Just ask for assistance.
Ask for assistance. And knowledge of their skills and non-skills, and ability to ask for help. The ability to correct or reprove kids without breaking them. Able to communicate in a positive and real way. Yeah. Okay.
I like to say
Comfortable starting over.
Comfortable starting over.
What do you mean by that?
Every 4 years, 3
Oh.
years, it's another, you just start, like, you build all this stuff, and then it's like, I already did that. I'm comfortable with that, you know, yeah, we gotta focus on the core rebuilding, we don't just graduate with these kids, we gotta let someone who's comfortable with being okay to go back to wherever we need to go.
Ability to. I think of people who work at like theme parks. You know, the people who dress up like Cinderella every day, and it's everyone they see. That's like they have to make it special for them in that moment. And so it's like with the kids as they cycle through. Like the kids coming in for the first time. This is their first time as a senior or as a junior, and it needs to be someone who's able to make the connections for a long period of time. Okay. I don't think I summarized that at all. I just added a bunch of words. Able to persevere. There we go. Okay, other abilities? Other characteristics? Fruit of the Spirit? Okay. Miriam?
I know that for me, the number one was just being honest.
Being honest.
Themselves, I guess,
Authentic.
integrity, like not being afraid, like we talked about, not being afraid to ask for help. Or, I guess, another kind of tie in what Seth was talking about, starting over, is the idea, this is for everyone really, that we know that we are just obeying Christ. It's not our job to make the church great. If we're broken, we just need to do what we know is right. And sometimes we'll stumble, we'll fall, maybe we'll need to be picked up, and that's okay. And I think sometimes we give ministers and elders and people and leadership this aura of, unbreakability, or they're the ones who are going to transform us. Christ has that power, and we're just partnering with Him. So I guess that idea, for me, is in His characteristic, is to know that we're not like, and we shouldn't be all looking at Him to make this the best youth group ever. It's not going to be in His power. It's consistent with His job, even if it does become, mundane.
So maybe some humility, some contentment, some perseverance. Which are? able to lead. Okay. How about some more boring things like, oh, never mind, I'll let you, oh.
I have a couple, one being they're a doer.
Being,
They're a doer.
they're a doer.
Not just say, but to follow up with action. And then I think it's important for anybody in leadership to not take themselves too seriously and have a good sense of humor and ability to, incorporate fun into their everyday work.
Ooh, a fun and positive person. I've hired a few people, and I really like hiring perpetually positive people. That's what I call them. Angela?
I think actually, Cameron, you had one.
Oh.
This might be kind of a tricky little, but I identify as humble, organized, compassionate,
Humble, organized, compassionate, energetic, and what? Patient. Cool, thanks. Christy?
So I think that the best youth ministers I've ever been around have had this wonderful combination between being mature and relatable.
Mature yet relatable.
You have to be more mature than the kids, but still then be able to relate.
Yeah.
And that's a really fine line. But that is really, really important.
Tamara?
yeah, sorry. One of the things I want to say, we've had the opportunity to know a lot of ministers, and what seems to be true of them is probably true of anyone doing any job. You either fit that personality or you don't. Like, there's a lot of things that people can learn, but those kind of things, you either have to or you don't.
Culture fit. Yeah.
It's not that it's perfect, but I would just caution to watch out for some of those signs of people that you know are like, if you're fighting all the time to be what a youth minister should be, you're never going to be able to do
Right. Someone who's authentic and comfortable in themselves, and by being authentic is the right fit for Meadowlark. And if you go back to the morning session and you think about what you want to see in this program, you don't want the rock star youth minister that can handle, 400 kids, right? You need someone who fits here, so that you are all comfortable working with this person and not just handing it off to someone and expecting them to do everything, but someone who can relate to the parents and the kids. Angela?
Yeah, that brings to mind, I want somebody who has a characteristic that they can do ministry with 400 kids or they can do ministry with one. And I don't really know how to put that, but that they're just as comfortable that they see value in that. That it could be, just two guys got, two senior guys are got an early morning Bible study and they recognize the value of that ministry as well. That they're much more about the ministry than their ego. If that makes sense. And then
So let me summarize for the recording. So an ability to relate, to teach large groups, to organize large activities, but at the same time connect one-on-one and not be a great public speaker and a really awkward face-to-face person over coffee. And one other thing.
I just want them to be approachable and engaging.
Approachable and engaging. Cool. Seth?
This is more for Abel, because I feel this is a good time to say that Abel wanted someone who's committed.
Someone who is committed.
He wanted someone that wants to be here, is committed to serving.
Someone's committed to being here. Okay, anything in the other category? Don't be dumb. Married? Okay, you can throw that on there. Angela? experience with youth? Okay, good. But, a parent, okay. Angela? Diverse experiences from life. Okay.
This is kind of long version. Don't take offense about what I'm about to say, but Angela's bracing herself.
I just won't repeat it so no one ever hears it again.
I would like to see us diversify our staff. And I would like to see that we don't hire someone from Texas, and we don't hire someone from Colorado.
We love the staff, just say that.
Just a little heavy on the Texas and Colorado culture. I'd like to see us diversify and maybe start looking at a nationwide search to look at Tennessee, Nebraska, Arkansas. I'd like to see Philadelphia, Oregon, Cascade. I'd like to see us kind of approaching the youth ministry process to a true nationwide search, because I think that would help us that are locked in the Colorado, Texas culture to kind of get to diversify ourselves.
A diverse candidate. Cool, I like it. One thing that, how would we put it? We talked about culture and the ability to fit in. One way I like to look at it is a culture adder. Like, who are they adding something to the culture that we want? And that can be different from what we have. That doesn't mean they're exactly like us, but they're maybe someone who embodies what we want.
One thing, the culture that we miss in Colorado is that if you look at the district of Colorado, we are a transient state. We have been formed through the gold rush in California, and all the folks that come here are transplants. Our culture inherently in Colorado, whether we recognize it or not, culturally is transitional. People come here. We don't have deep-rooted, no one was here in 1800s, 1700s, things like that. And so it's very rare to come to those things. And so I just kind of laying it out that
Sure.
the inherent culture for our culture outside these walls of Owen is that we are transient.
And that kind of speaks to some of the things other folks said about other life experiences and able to connect, because we are all transplants. I don't know if all of you are, but I'm not from Colorado. So not everyone is from here. So being able to come in and relate to a very diverse group that we are already. Okay, anything else in the other box, Miriam?
One thing I know is just being able to establish healthy boundaries, still being relatable, especially in just the way we know, probably always has been in churches where you have, when you're a leader and you form relationships, relationship is the basis of your ministry, of your work, so to speak, to know how to have good, healthy boundaries and everything like that.
How to establish healthy boundaries.
To have healthy boundaries. And that you're married or single, that you have experience or not, I think that goes with the maturity thing and that may come, but that just that they're aware of that.
Able to establish and maintain healthy boundaries.
Be aware, this is for all of us, but especially those in leadership position, to be aware of how others, what kind of boundaries they're putting to, healthy boundaries in their relationships.
Yeah, cool.
The married part, just from my personal experience, I feel like it's super important, not just because there can be another person there to work with some adults, but also because of how many times I was told, like that, and or other people say, hey, there's another girl that has a crush on you, this is a problem, I need you to come, I need you to stay. It doesn't matter age, time, when you put a man in a leadership position where he's ministering to young girls, it happens every time. Every year, goes nonsense. You're like, oh, it just happens.
And I would like you all to continue the conversation about what is important to you in a minister. I do want to move on to the other pieces, and Jim continues to remain available And I want you to think about, because we can debate all these things, and I want you to think about it less from an I agree to an I disagree to a I agree, like that is important to me, to, well, if they're not married, like is that a deal breaker? So, and this is with the feedback that Jim needs to hear, not so much that we need to discuss here, but if there is a candidate who is not married, are you in a I cannot support that position? Because the objective is not to get everyone who's like this up to I agree. Like that debate just goes on forever and nothing really changes. But if you have a serious concern that you cannot get behind one particular thing that we talked about today, I don't want to debate it right now, but I do want you to share that with Jim privately, that you can't get behind a certain thing. And so go through your list again and be honest with yourself about, are you here? Like, if we hire someone from Colorado, could that be okay, right? Versus, no way, we gotta get someone from another state, right? So tailor your thoughts around that. Cool, let's move on. And I wanted to revisit activities real quick. And what I want to do, what do I have? Commit to help. What are you willing to help with? And I've got a sheet for you. The last one, I have committed to. If I need help, I can ask. And then important dates. So this, a little bit of this is tied back to the activities that we've got here. Just because you throw your name out there or you don't throw your name out there, this isn't definitive, but I do at least want you all to walk out of here with some understanding of where you can help or where you can rely on others to help or what people are going to own or not own. So, I don't know the best way to do this, but because there are parents who are not here who want to be engaged, they just couldn't be here today, so they want to be involved. So we don't have to fill up all the name slots today. But what I want you to write down are things that you've committed to do specifically around how you want to help lead a specific thing, an activity, or where else you want to help in the IT or running a workshop, or that you don't want to do anything at all, or you want to make a meal. And then on another column I put, if I need help, I can ask, because I don't want you to think you have to do this alone. And then important dates. So let's go through this real quick. Saturday outdoor event. Is there someone who's willing to be kind of the point contact to you don't have to run them all and organize them all, but who everyone can go to with ideas or coordinate something? Chad? All right, so if you'll write down that you've committed to at least, start forming what that might look like. Anyone that can help Chad, he can put your name. Angela and Heather and Russell. Okay, lots of people to help. Bible studies. Who? Okay, a Bible study. Miriam, what are you committing to? Yeah. Yeah.
But they really don't have the time or the commitment or the energy at the end of the day. And I don't think that's anything wrong. So I wonder if Bible study, what would be more helpful is some form of, trying to think.
I'd like to point out that when we wrote Bible study, we were talking about how every event we do should have Bible-related events. The note just said Bible
would you be willing just to continue the conversation outside of this with whoever else raised their hand? So Miriam, you're going to organize a group of parents to kind of work out what that could look like. Who was there talking about? I can help with that. Angela. Okay. Trek. Okay. Jason. Anyone to help? Russell. Chad. Perfect. Small groups. Who? Okay, next thing. Is that something for you guys to talk about later? Perfect. Okay. Sunday virtual gatherings. Is there someone who wants to see what that could look like? Heather? Okay. Anyone willing to help? All right. And I don't want you to feel like that. Oh, small groups. Did we? We did. Sorry about that. Small groups. Anyone willing to kind of run down what that might look like? Okay, we'll leave that open for now. Sunday school. Exploring a class, yeah. Okay, so I've committed, if you'll write that down. Anyone willing to help Jason with what Sunday school might look like? Steve, thanks. Service involvement. Chad, excellent. Anyone willing to help Chad with that? Run down what that might look like. David? David Watson. And Seth, thanks. Is service involvement and service projects different? I can't remember. Oh, that's right. Okay, so service involvement of getting them involved in church services. Chad, you're still up for that. And then Seth is still involved in that. And then David, yeah, cool. You guys knew what we were talking about. I totally forgot. Service projects. This would be that external projects. Anyone willing to run with that one? Excellent. Thank you. Anyone willing to help with that? Oh, Chad is a helper. Area-wide stuff. Okay. So, leave that something for a youth minister. Yeah, it seems like this is a good rebuilding stage internally, parent group and kids. All right. Mentoring. Heather, anyone want to help with that? Run down what that might look like. Miriam, thanks. Chad, perfect. Weekly blast, like an email or something. But mentor, David, thanks. Weekly blast. Oh, okay. It does. Angela?
I think probably the most value would be to have here's what we have planned, and then here's a short little devotional thought or a character definition or something. Is that kind of what you were thinking?
A newsletter?
I think we just need to have some kind of communication out to the team list. And like, I was kind of throwing it out there, anyone can do this.
Mhm.
But I'd like to see more activity from all of us on that team list, emailing out. To me, I was wanting to see more core values of spiritual growth and building that core. But an advertisement once a month on here's what the activities are for October would be very helpful. But anyone can write on it.
Yeah, so an opportunity to keep everyone in the loop of what's happening, because not everyone's going to be involved 100% of the time. So when they do want to be involved, they know what's going on that week. Angela? Angela's committing to see what that might look like. And then helpers? Shannon. Awesome. Thanks.
Hey, do we have a text
Mm.
thing that you can blast like on text? Is there like a
We
text?
do have a service for, we do have a service for blasting text. We do like, I forgot how many a month. I do have, there's a football, that's what it's actually called, that Daniel has, that piece of paper that Terrence on.
Oh.
Talking about football. And that's what Daniel wrote out. He wrote it out on one of the activities he does every month. But we do have a service that we pay for right now that we can write messages and send out.
I just think the younger kids respond more to text than email. Like,
Yeah. You got to join them where they are. You got to get on TikTok and Snapchat and all that stuff. Meet them where they are. Okay. Classes by age. Okay. Yeah. It might look. You might decide that now's not a good time to split it out. But. Yeah, okay, cool. Thanks, Miriam. And then kids teaching, and getting the kids involved in some way of teaching classes or something, the older. Probably, okay. Hmm? Yeah, yeah. All right, so what you're committing to is basically just to run it down, see what it could look like, and then to work with Jim on possibilities. And then, of course, we don't want to come out of here with like 30 different activities all going on and just so much stuff that we're bombarding kids, but I think it's important to get some routine. Angela?
Can we go back to small groups?
Yeah.
Just curious, like a show of hands. If we were to do a small group, maybe not every week, maybe every other week, would people be interested in participating? Because it was towards the end, it was just Heather's family and ours.
Mm.
And I get it, everybody's busy, but I'm just curious, are people interested?
Agree, committed, disagree? Whole family, small groups.
The location, I was wondering if the location mattered better because when we went to London, we seemed to drive quite a bit.
Personally, for us, any activity after 6 o'clock at night is
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll let you guys continue with the activity planning, the detailed stuff outside of this. I do want to revisit real quick all of the events, like the NCC stuff, the VBS, the encounter, fall retreat, winter peak. Is there someone who's kind of the point contact for those big ticket items to make sure we're not missing registration dates or things like that? For all those like standing things.
Right now, on the transition, I've been in contact with NCCC, so we have an email that went to, forgot his name already, but it's another email, to do that. I'm gonna go meet with Terry, because of this NCCC thing, at the church out in Jason Longo. But I think, I guess I want to put it out there, is anyone volunteering to do that? To be in contact so that when Carla, so that we can contact each of these people to say contact me? Does anybody want to do that?
Well, I have a question. Who's been to some of these other ones? Have you been to Winter Peak or have you been? I haven't been to Winter Peak. I obviously did NCC. Right.
So I think that is one of the objectives of that group of 4 that Jim talked about, is that we can hand this off from Seth. So even if it's not right now, if you can keep your eye on those things, Seth, until there's that. Perfect.
Some of the area-wide stuff, like figure out if there's a winter peak or if the middle school thing is no longer to find.
She's friends with Jessica, so I kept in touch with them, and he may have all that information.
We just need to get a person that's on the email contact.
Yeah. Well, Seth, if you don't mind that staying on you until that group is established, that group of 4, which, Jim, do you want to talk a little bit more about what you have in mind for that group of 4? Yeah. Where's the, here it is. And then we're at noon, so I don't want to keep you guys too long.
Well, as the email I put out a couple weeks to everybody, like I say, the first thing we'd like to do moving forward is kind of get the structure in place around a youth ministry, and that would be to have 4 youth ministry team leads put into place. And certainly we're going to lean heavily on those 4 during the period that we're without a youth minister. So you can essentially think what a youth minister normally does, we're going to be really leaning on those 4, and those 4 are going to be leaning on all the parents. And then moving forward, even once we get a youth minister in place, really having those 4 individuals just working hand in hand with the youth minister. So first thing I want to ask from this group here is text me, email me, call me, come see me in person if either you would like to be a ministry team lead for the youth ministry, or there's someone who you think would be great you'd like to nominate. I'm going to have to work with the other shepherds to see are these going to be individuals we'll just handpick and appoint? Do we want to go through a selection with the whole congregation, or leave it just with the involved parents? Just how formal do we want to get? We've kind of done it a gambit of ways. Heather, you had a question?
So this is kind of going back to Tamara's point about having a youth minister that's married, and like when girls leave or need help with stuff, will this committee be male only, or are you envisioning that it will be male, female?
I see no reason why we can't have a mix. Yeah, we've already got female ministry team leads within the congregation. I don't see this being any different. I'll talk personally, me. Yeah, I don't like the title deacon. I think deacon is really a role. It just strictly means servant. You actually go through and, there's the big argument, are we talking deacons and deacons' wives or deacons and deaconesses? I think it's just talking about servants, and you can serve regardless of gender. So I don't see any reason why, if we had a committee, and we had ministry team leads, why it couldn't be mixed up with both. And this is kind of me personally speaking right there. So, but we've done it already. I see no reason why we can't continue that practice. So,
So is the ask that they contact you directly?
yeah,
after
just
this?
contact me directly in any form or fashion you want. And like I say, even if there's someone you want to nominate, I would sure ask them first before you drop their name to me. But
Just think of all the people.
but
who
if
aren't here.
you can't get them to agree and you think they'd be great, we can employ some arm twisting tactics. Seth?
Like going back to the search committee, is this gonna be, church-wide search committee, or is it gonna be our youth group parent search committee?
It's probably going to be, I would say we would heavily lean on parents, either who currently have kids in youth group, who have some coming up. That we might have one or two, but I think primarily as we go out looking for a youth minister, I think especially those who have a stake in that ought to have a big voice in saying that. Not to say we're not going to have, another sprinkling or two out there. But yeah, I think those who have the stake ought to have the greatest say. We were talking about married. I personally would like to make that a requirement, just because you do have, the young girls that are coming up, they need a mentor, and they can't always get that. That's one of the reasons why the past few summers when we've had a youth intern, we've really wanted, Daniel was going out and getting a female youth intern, just so we had that.
Hey, on the timeline, is there a reason we have to take 8 or 9 months to find it? We can't try to push it up to get it?
Nope. The only thing I don't want to push up is I don't want to start looking for a youth minister today until we get the 4. And I say 4. If we get more than 4, great. I would like to get the base structure in place with the ministry team leads, to where that may change who we're looking for, what skill sets, depending on who those 4 leaders are. If you've got a really strong person who's got a very strong in one category, we might be willing to say, hey, that's a strength we don't necessarily need in a youth minister. So what I'd like to do is first get the 4 established, get roles and responsibilities clearly defined, and I've got a 4-page thing. I might even just email it out to everybody of a structure we had both in Texas and Oklahoma, and kind of what all the roles and responsibilities were. But once we have that in place and we know what skill set we're going to need, then go out. And I would like to actually get a committee together and be going out before the end of the year, start that search, to where ideally it'd be nice to get someone on board by spring. COVID's really going to make it difficult in the interim. Just, if we want someone to travel for interviews and things like that, it's going to be a little difficult. Brad, did you have your hand up, or?
Just something for those first 4 people to consider. I know that some are obviously for a number of months, but in regards to a female intern, that hiring usually happens October or November. And the reason Daniel ran into so much problems was because he didn't know budget enough ahead of time to recruit somebody in October and November, when those sort of job fairs are happening at the Christian colleges. So that's just something for the youth committee. You need to be thinking about summer as far as an intern goes, whether it's a male or a female, October, November.
Yeah. And certainly, as we're going out for a youth minister, we're not really, we might look at campus too, but there's no reason why we can't be going out and looking for, I think I heard it here, someone with experience. So we'll leave all that open. And as we get the way I envision, once we get a search committee in place, the shepherds are going to give some boundaries. One might be they must be married, but we'll have some boundaries. They must meet these as a minimum, and then pretty much leave it to the committee to work within those boundaries. Whether we put a restriction, nobody from Texas. I don't care if they're from Texas, just as long as they're a Longhorn and not an Aggie. Definitely no Sooners. I'll take a Cowboy, but no Sooners if we look in Oklahoma. But no, those are some things. I really struggle putting a restriction on what state you come from. It's really an individual.
Yeah.
Not all Texans are Jason Richter. Not all Oklahomans are my mother-in-law. Yeah, we could get preference. Like yeah, I would,
Well,
like for instance.
in a religious organization, you can do whatever.
I think you're going to see a little of both. There may be restrictions like no singles. But, there may be a preference. Our real preference is someone who can bring in new experiences that we don't have here right now and things like that. So anyway, so if that is something you really have a passion for and can commit to, let me know. If there's someone out there who you really are passionate that they'd be ideal, ask them, let me know, and we'll start working here this coming Tuesday with the other shepherds of, is this something we're just going to go out and appoint? Or are we going to do something like in Acts chapter 6, where we're really looking at the congregation to choose who these individuals are? There's different ways of accomplishing the same purpose.
So I want to be mindful of everyone's time. I know you've got places to go, things to see. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for your commitment to being involved, to being engaged. You don't have to leave, but if you need to, you're welcome to go. So I just wanted to wrap this up. And Jim, would you mind?
Yeah, just a couple things I wanted to just share before we go. Think about, and this is just a beginning process, what we did today. I heard a lot about what you want in a youth minister working with your youth. Think about what you want in a youth minister working with you. Just as important as developing relationships with your children is developing relationships within with the parents. Youth minister, like I said, really, I look at them as being able to build community within the youth group, build community within the parents and things like that. We can teach our children, but it takes an individual to help bring all that. Just a scripture I want to read as we close out here, Deuteronomy 6. Most of you are going to know this from heart. It just says, "And these words which I am commanding you today shall be on your heart, and you shall teach them diligently to your sons, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk away, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontals on your forehead. And you shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates." This is something I see a youth minister helping you to do. This is ultimately us as parents, our responsibility, youth minister to help. I don't want to bring in a youth minister and parents dump all that responsibility on a youth minister. That youth minister is here to assist and help you. Parenting, and I am so glad I'm no longer, well, I'm still a parent, but I'm not raising any children. It's probably one of the highest callings God can give an individual, is that to be a parent and give you the responsibility of raising one of God's children to walk in the footsteps of His Son. And it's an opportunity that you have. It's a great responsibility. I don't envy being a parent this day and age. It's difficult being a parent. We have had so much thrown at us this year. It's even more challenging. We're going to try to remove as quickly as we can to get a minister in place. But until then, we're really going to rely on parents to kind of rally together, keep our youth engaged, keep us heading in the right direction there. and I am here to assist any of you any way that we can go. That's all I need to say. Chad or Jason, you guys have any words you want to give? You know, I'm excited about some possibilities that we have. I heard some folks talking about youth ministers. There are career youth ministers out there. Who knew Mike Myers from Littleton? You know, Mike was Cindy's youth minister growing up, and we used to give him a hard time about he was like the oldest living youth minister out there, and he did it for I don't know how many decades. I would love to bring in someone who, you know, that is their life, that is their passion, and we're all long gone and they're still serving, but isn't always that possibility. But we'll work together, we'll find the right, I say individual, let's say we'll find the right family to come in here and work together with you and with your youth and really grow what we can become. Anyway, Brad, can I pick on you since you've been sitting back there silent? And maybe lead us in a quick word of prayer as we dismiss.
One other thing, I'd like to thank Kane very much for leading us in the
Yeah. We're gonna have to see if he owes a commission now to the Kroger Corporation for